5. I was waiting for Andrew to talk. I just looked in the...
Oh, that's right. Usually I'm like, welcome to the Andrew Paul Veteran Advocate Show. But in this case, Derek, it's your show.
It is.
So please.
It is. It's my show this time. We also have a special guest today. Judy Ann Richard is here. How you doing, Judy? It's great to have you.
I'm doing well, thank you.
It's okay, shake my hand. Yeah, there you go.
Judy Ann, give me a high five.
Oh, there you go.
Welcome to Smartest San Diego.
Oh, he wants to get it going.
Yeah.
So, a passion for helping veterans. The subject today, some PSAs, some announcements about people who are targeting veterans. We've seen some crazy stuff out there. Also, just kind of an interesting story about what the life is like of a parent of someone who is a veteran and someone who's on active duty. And Judy, I have a couple questions for you. I mean, I know you have experience, professionally as a paralegal. You're now in real estate, but your son was in the service.
Is in the service.
Is in the service.
Yes.
Still in the service, and he's a Marine, right?
Yes, he is.
Now, when did he tell you, Mom, I want to be a Marine? Do you remember that?
He's probably 12, 13.
12 or 13?
Yes, yes.
Wow, so you knew early on.
Early on, yeah.
So when that moment came that he was finally like, okay, I'm going now. Did he, what was his path? Did he enlist? Did he go through?
He was in ROTC all the way through high school, and so when he graduated at 17, I actually had to sign for him to enlist before he turned 18.
What was your what were your feelings on that, like as a mother? I mean, because you knew it was coming. You saw 12, 13. Okay, hey, this kid is ready to go out there and sacrifice himself for the good of the country. Did you think? Were you hoping? Oh, maybe he won't do it. Maybe he'll get sick of it. Maybe he won't like it. Or was anything like that going on?
It's a lifelong dream of his that he's realized, and he's was committed from a very early age. So I was really proud of him that he made that decision.
And when he finally, went off to boot camp and I'm going to go be a Marine, what was that like for you?
There's always fear of what's coming up for the military and the challenges, but he's been trained very strong with the Marine Corps, and I have confidence that he'll take care of himself out there. It's all we can do as moms, just know that they're trained and that they have other brothers in the military that are looking out for each other.
I'm probably somewhere in the middle of this because I remember very distinctly wanting to go in the military at probably 12, 13, 14. And my parents probably just thought it was like a phase and I'd get out of it. And all of a sudden I was like, no, seriously, like I'm gonna go do this. And I know I probably drove him crazy. I mean, as a parent, you can't help but worry. I hate the word worry, but you can't help but worry about the safety of your kid. And you think they're gonna go into harm's way. I see that now. I'm kind of right in the middle of this. Like I see this now with my kids. My boys are absolutely the type of guys that will easily go in the military. They love it. They love the adrenaline. They have a real strong sense of purpose and justice, and they want to help people. And I could easily see my boys going in the military, and I'd be super proud of them. And at the same time, of course, as a parent, you'd think, I just hope nothing bad happens to them. And it's like that flip, that, kind of two sides of the coin. But on the other hand, it's like, man, I'm super proud of them. I'm super proud of them that they would be willing to risk themselves to serve and to help other people.
Yeah, it's a special kind of person that it takes for that to happen.
Yeah.
Andrew, in your case, you actually realized the dream of becoming a Navy SEAL, which is a very difficult thing to do. What point in time did you tell your parents, like, hey, I'm not just going to join, I'm going to go try to do this? Do you remember that?
My parents were so everybody in my family, except for my immediate family, has been in the military. Uncles, cousins, grandparents, everybody. But my parents, even though they were raised with it, they were not in the military themselves, and so kind of really incubated. So when I said I want to go in the military, the only thing they knew was that like the people in their family was in the military, and so they respected it, but they didn't have any clue. And they definitely did not know what a Navy SEAL was. And of course, when I first told them that that's what I wanted to do, it was an immature kind of a goal. Like I was a kid, so it didn't have. I just thought it was cool, and it looked awesome, and I wanted to do it. But they had no idea, so like they didn't even know enough to be scared. And then like little by little, as they started to learn more, I think my mom was like legitimately like, wait a minute, like you're gonna jump out of a plane? And I was like, yeah, man, it's awesome. She's like, oh gosh, Andrew, and, but that's that. But and my mom now is pretty tight with a group of moms back where we're from on the East Coast, and they meet somewhat regularly for dinner, and there are other moms of Navy SEALs and. Some who have lost their sons, and so the dinners and the meetings are sometimes somber, but they support one another. And I think what I've seen with my mom is that there's this kind of they kind of support each other, and they're like, as a parent, I worry for the safety of my kid, but what's stronger than that is how proud I am of the man that these men have become, and so I think that's pretty cool to see.
Super duper cool. And if you're watching this live on Facebook right now, we are live. You can comment if you want to shout out some support for the United States military. I think this would be a great place to do it, as that's what we're talking about today, is the passion that we all have for helping veterans in any way that we possibly can here in the civilian world. They don't need our help when they're out doing their thing, but when they come back home, a lot of times they do. So we should be here for them. And I think that's something that you both have done a lot in your careers. Judy Ann, now you're in the real estate business. You have an extensive background as a paralegal as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, tell me about how you kind of combine all of these things. Your passion for helping veterans, because your son is still active duty, and also your background as a paralegal and in real estate.
My real estate career began in 2008 when the market crashed. I was working for a bankruptcy lawyer at the time. So I was able to walk through the downfall of the market and then also see it progress back to where it is today. I love helping veterans, realize home ownership. Recently I placed a veteran in a home, and it's just a powerful experience watching them open up the door for the first time and get a dog for the yard. It's just so even the ones that have had past financial hardships, it's possible. Home ownership is possible even after a bankruptcy. After 2 years, they can still buy a home. So it's it's my passion. I love it. I love helping people. Some of my business is a part of people that are in distress with their homes, what the options are to be able to save your home. There's a lot of programs available for people that are in distress as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, and when you work with someone that is a veteran, maybe it's someone who's referred by your son, or maybe it's someone completely different. Is there something different about that experience for you, because you have that sort of camaraderie as a mother of a Marine?
There definitely is. One of the questions are, should I buy? Is, the market good for me now? Or what if I get deployed? So they have different concerns than a normal homeowner when deciding to make a purchase with a home.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things to consider, right?
I think you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, we have a lot of military here in San Diego, but there's a lot of people who have no idea what the lifestyle is like for an active duty service member. Judy Ann, I know you moved from Texas. You said you followed your son out here when he enlisted in the Marine Corps.
Yes, I did.
And so you've watched him obviously not just grow up actually, but also grow up in his time in his service here in the military. And I think, as a mother watching your son deploy, move around duty stations, and you've been here to support him in all of that, you've gotten a real intimate experience with what those unique challenges are for veterans. And I think that's frankly, that's why you're here today.
Yes.
Okay, that's why you're on the show. That's not why any real estate agent doesn't come on the show. Why you're here on the show today is because of your strong connection and affiliation to the Marine Corps, and because you have a son who's on active duty. I think you're uniquely positioned to understand intimately what the challenges are that veterans go through, and how they wrestle with their decision-making process of whether or not they should buy. One of the things I want to highlight, we were in my office the other day and we were talking about, okay, now we're going to use your son as an example right now. How many years has he been in the Marine Corps now?
17.
And is your son a homeowner?
Not yet.
Not yet. I like the optimism. But here's the thing, what we talked about, and among other, other senior officers that I've known who've been in for a long time, we all kind of look at each other and go, man, I wish somebody had just grabbed me when I was in my first or second year in the military and said, you're going to put money into your TSP. You're going to look at buying a house. And because, when you're young, you know what I want to do? I want to take that signing bonus. I want to go get a new Mustang with a huge spoiler on the back.
Or a Harley.
Or a Harley, right? Or the big truck. And those big trucks are freaking $80,000.
Yes.
And it seems cool at the time. And I'm just going to tell you all right now, it seems cool right now. And I promise you, you will be sitting here, well, maybe not here, but you'll be saying what I'm saying in 15 years. And you're like, man, that truck was cool, but it wasn't that cool. It'd be a lot cooler right now if I had bought a house.
Yes.
And I had $150,000 in equity. And so, we were talking about your son, just as an example, even though he's had different duty stations and he's had to move around, which goes into that calculus of should I buy or not. What if you had just bought? And when you moved, you got a renter. And then you ended up having a duty station back here and you moved back into the home. And over the course of a 15 or 20-year career, the kind of equity that you build, I mean, that is night and day, from a net worth perspective. So I look at that and I just think, how do we get this message out? I'm not saying that home ownership is right for everybody, but I do think it's about education and having this discussion so people can weigh those things and they go, look at, here's where you are not buying, here's where you are buying. Seems like a lot of money and a big decision right now, but in 15 years it'll seem like nothing. And you'll be like, oh, that was easy. I should have done 2 of them.
The no-brainer in hindsight, right? There's a lot of those out there.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a no-brainer in hindsight. And we're not sitting here saying, like, veterans are so, they need our help because they're so feeble and they can't do anything. Not at all. That's not that we're. Yeah. But you are being targeted. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. You're being targeted. In fact, there's a release, right? A new article that came out about what's going on with that and how companies are targeting veterans right now. Yeah, so
my friend Jason pointed this out here to me. Jason Steyer, I think you're following live with us here, pointed out an article on Bloomberg News today. So the problem, we talked about it on a show a couple of weeks ago on Andrew Paul Veteran Advocate, where lenders have been churning VA loans using the Streamline Refinance. And if you're a veteran and you have a VA loan, like I do, you probably get 20 unsolicited flyers in the mail every week, several a day, all promising you some super low interest rate that sounds too good to be true, because it is too good to be true, because it's an adjustable rate mortgage, even though they say fixed on the flyer because it's fixed for 3 years. That's not a 30-year fix, folks. It's fixed, for 3 years. It's an adjustable mortgage. And you're like, oh, that sounds awesome. And then they charge you like $10,000 just to do that loan. So these lenders who have been churning these Streamline refinances are taking advantage of veterans, plain and simple.
They're abusing the program and abusing the borrowers.
Yes. So the article in Bloomberg, go see it for yourself, talks about how Ginnie Mae, who handles the mortgage-backed securities for government loans like VA and FHA loans, and the VA has been analyzing what lenders are abusing this program. And there is an accusation by the VA and by Ginnie Mae, not by me, the VA and Ginnie Mae accusing these companies of churning loans and taking advantage of veterans. Read the article yourself, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And basically, these lenders are being threatened to either change their policies or be removed from the program. What happens long term, one, taking advantage of veterans is never cool in my book, and you're on my short list for that. But two, long term, what happens is that ultimately, when these loans are securitized on the secondary loan market, investors are expecting to get a certain return on investment. And when these lenders come in and they refinance these loans out of these security pools and they pay off early, all of a sudden investors go, well, why would I buy that as an investment now if the loan's just going to pay off? And it seems benign, but let me explain to you how that works. It destroys the market for mortgage-backed securities and takes away the liquidity in the marketplace. So now investors don't have an appetite to buy these investment vehicles, and ultimately it drives the interest rates up. So you get veterans who are being taken advantage of, and it pushes interest rates up because the marketplace loses its appetite for those investments as an investment vehicle. So check out Bloomberg's article today. There's a few large companies on there. You will recognize their name, who have got 30 days, and in some cases 60 days to respond to the Department of Veterans Affairs letters. So I'll let you read that, but this is a practice I don't support, obviously.
Yeah, so we have that. We have Wells Fargo news about that. Janet Yellen on her way out saying, hey, Wells Fargo, you can't grow anymore based on your deceptive practices, and that's across the board.
Yeah.
I don't know, Andrew, United Military Lending, ever had any problem with the Fed? Ever had any problem with Ginnie Mae? Had ever had any problem with the VA?
So far, we're good.
I mean, it's like you can make, it's a simple decision. I mean, listen, not all big companies are bad, but if you look at the ones who are getting in big trouble, it's kind of the same guys over and over.
Let me offer a little bit of a fair point about that. United Military Lending, just to be honest with you, is a smaller company compared to those guys. Those guys are the 800-pound gorillas in the room. And I've just seen this in years through leadership and businesses that when organizations grow and become really large, it's hard to maintain the right atmosphere. All of those companies for sure started with good intentions and with good groups of people, but little by little, greed starts to creep in. Little by little, the core group of people who founded the organization with great intentions, you begin to lose touch with that. And that's just what happens with any organization as it grows, okay? And so United Military Lending is a smaller organization, so I think we just offer a more personal level of service, and there's just more personal accountability within our organization. In fairness to those organizations, I don't think that they have all sought out to be bad and to do bad things. But it's just as an organization grows, they kind of can't get out of their own way, and things just start to happen as a large company. It becomes a very large leadership problem. Wells Fargo has been in the news for years over this kind of stuff, and Janet Yellen's last move before she's left office has basically been to say, listen, you've been slapped, you've been slapped, you've been warned, you've been slapped, you've been warned. So here's the deal: you're not allowed to grow anymore until you fix your internal problems. I don't think that they're a bad company, to be fair. I think they're a large organization, and I think there's just a challenge with accountability. So,
big challenge, especially if you can get away with those things, and the only repercussions are, you guys can't grow. All right?
Yeah.
Now, deal with that.
I will
Talk
tell
about
you,
a slap on the wrist.
It is hard to sometimes see organizations that are involved with what could be called deceptive practices. It is nice to see that some of these large organizations that wield a lot of firepower, so to speak, in the battlefield of financial services, are being held accountable. At least are being called out. We'll see how that actually translates.
I can tell you how it translates. I mean, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. They'll make the changes or say they're making the changes, and then go back to business as usual.
Well,
that's what's been happening, for decades in banking. But that's a sidebar.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that for sure again. But since we have Julianne Richard on with us today, and I heard the Texas in you, by the way, before Andrew said it. I could hear it. I know you say y'all probably and things like that, which I do as well, but I'm not from Texas. So we said, veterans don't necessarily, they're not people who are out there who are needy. A lot of times, in fact, these are people who can figure things out. They can get things done on their own. But what happens is they're so focused on their job and their service, when it comes to what we call like real world or like civilian issues, like buying a home or dealing with bills and things like that, it's difficult for them to know what the right thing to do is. And because they're being attacked, literally attacked, targeted and attacked.
Targeted, for sure.
Targeted, 100% targeted by certain companies, they may get bad information. And they may see so much bad information that it starts to seem believable. If someone tells you the same thing over and over and over again, if you see the same thing over and over and over again, you may start to think that it's true. So what kind of help do veterans really need from us, in your opinion?
I think that the approval process and the myths that are the misunderstanding of, for example, like the closing cost, what they're responsible for to purchase a home. Sometimes the property condition is an issue that needs to be cleared up, and sometimes termite could be an issue, and just the approval process for the veteran to be informed of how easy it can be to
you
find
think
a home.
they believe that it's more difficult?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Andrew, is that your experience as well?
There's a balance there. I think it's not as hard as perhaps some people think. On the other hand, some companies don't do a very thorough pre-approval process, and so they'll have a very cursory level conversation with a potential homeowner or an applicant. They might pull their credit report, and then based on that, without really looking under the rock, without really peeling back the layers of the onion, understand what this potential buyer's financial situation is, they'll just tell them in a 15-minute conversation, you're good. And they'll give them a pre-approval letter, and off they go into the marketplace with this piece of paper that isn't worth the paper it's printed on. I mean, I wouldn't even wipe my rear end with it, to be honest with you. And Did I just say that on? And
yeah, we're live.
We're live.
In case you weren't sure, now you know.
It's useless
for sure.
But the misperception or the misconception is that, like, well, I spoke to my lender and I even have a piece of paper that says I'm qualified, and they really didn't go through the details of that person's financial situation, which is why they write an offer, gets accepted, and 2.5, 3 weeks into the process, where they think they're a week away from getting keys and moving into the home, their boxes are all packed up, the house they're moving out of, they're said, oh, sorry, as it turns out, you don't actually qualify for this mortgage. So it is super important to have a thorough pre-approval done, which is what we do at United Military Lending. And it's also very important that when you're writing an offer, a lot of listing agents are savvy to this. And so if you are working with a large lender who hasn't done a complete pre-approval, they're not going to consider your offer seriously because they are leery. They're there to protect their seller, to make sure that if they accept your offer, this is in fact going to close. And they know that a lot of these larger lenders don't do a complete pre-approval. So if you want your offer to be strongly considered, if you want to be a competitor in a competitive market, and you really want to buy a home, you've got to work with a lender who's going to do a complete and thorough pre-approval. We make it as easy as possible for you. There's a bunch of paperwork we do need to be able to give you that accurate deal, but the accurate pre-approval. But we make it pretty easy, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it matters who you work with and what their intentions are.
Right.
I think that's what we're talking about here. The intentions matter. They really do, especially when it comes to a situation where a lot of times the veteran, and maybe you can both speak to this, has to sort of just put their trust in you.
Right.
They have to just say, listen, I don't really have that much time to try to go figure out, like, talk to 10 different lenders and see what the best thing. I trust you.
Right.
To help tell me what I need to do, I will do it, and I just have to believe that you have my best interests in mind. Is that how it goes a lot of the times?
I think it depends. I mean, speaking for myself, as a veteran, when I connect with another veteran, I think there's a natural trust and a natural rapport, and it's something that I'm very careful never to abuse. For me, my passion is protecting my fellow veterans from the wolves in the marketplace who, when they see a veteran, they see dollar signs in their eyes. So for me, I don't take that trust for granted, but I think veterans in some cases can be too trusting of people. I think a veteran trusts another veteran that you just trust that guy's got your six, and I don't think they are necessarily keen to the fact that there are people on the marketplace who all they see is a dollar sign, and they're just looking. You're just a commission check for them, So I'm careful never to abuse that, and I'm always looking out for the best interests of my fellow veterans.
Have you noticed that as well, Judy Ann?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Very trusting, right?
Yes.
Because once they make the decision to go to you, all right, you're my person. And they just kind of hope. And unfortunately, like Andrew said, a lot of times people out there will take advantage of that. They go, oh, I got this guy. He'll sign whatever I put in front of him.
Right.
Perfect.
I hear agents in the marketplace literally say, I love working with veterans. They do whatever I tell them. I mean, on one side of the coin, if you're working with an agent who knows what they're doing and you want that house, that agent knows everything you need to do. If you want to get the house, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And veteran and active duty service members are good at going, roger that, check, and then do what they're supposed to, right? On the other side of that coin, sometimes I hear when people say that, oh, I love working with veterans, I do whatever I tell them. It's like, what was the context of that one? My ears are always open. The hairs on the back of my neck are always feeling. My spidey senses are always sniffing out somebody who's trying to take advantage of a veteran. So,
well, thank you guys both so much for coming on today, Judy Ann Richard.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. Thank you for all of the things that you've had to endure, having your son who protects us all in the Marine Corps. It's an amazing thing, and you should be very, very proud of him.
Thank you.
It's a really, really, really cool thing.
yeah, thank you. Thank you to your son for his service, and thanks for raising a great kid.
Tremendous stuff. More coming up on Smarter San Diego. Stick around.